A while back, I covered the Sonya Massey story. This was the woman who was holding a pot of water, and the police officers were in her home, and the police officer apparently jumped to ridiculous conclusions and thought that she was going to do something to him with that pot of water. He pulled out the gun after she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," and he shot her in the head. At that point, we've gone through this before on the show, but she had nothing in her hand. Her hands were up in the air, and he shot her after her hands were up in the air. There has now been an update about that particular officer that I think you do want to hear. But first, let's go back to what happened that day, not just that night. There's a video here I want to play of what happened with Sonya Massey earlier that day with the police and what her mom said. Let's get into that.
Body cam footage in the Sonya Massey case, which shows the Illinois mother interacting with police just hours before he shot in her home. Trevor Valdez here with the story. Good morning, Trevor.
Good morning, George. So we've, of course, seen that disturbing body camera footage where she was shot to death in her own kitchen by a now former police officer. But this is new footage from the day before in which her mother called 911 saying Sonya was having a mental health episode. And even then, her mother begged them not to hurt her daughter.
How you doing, ma'am? What's your name?
This morning, newly released footage showing Sonya Massey 16 hours before she was fatally shot on July 6th at her home outside Springfield, Illinois.
I don't know what to do.
In this new body cam video obtained by our ABC affiliate WICS, Massey's seen interacting with police, explaining she was worried about her children.
I don't know where they at. I think they are around there.
No, they're at their dad's house. They're worried about you too. Everybody just wants you to be okay. That's all it is.
Over the course of the roughly 45-minute video, Massey is sitting in her car, upset over her family, as well as the lights and water being turned off at her home.
Now, notice the difference between the way those officers interacted with her and the officer that took her life later on that evening. So her mother, I guess, basically confirmed that there was some type of mental health issue with Sonya Massey, which I kind of assumed when we first covered that story. And to that point, I've said this over and over again, in those types of situations, I do think that the police should not be the ones to handle any type of mental health situation. They don't know what they're doing, but that also doesn't give them an excuse to shoot someone when they have their hands up in the air either. It was very clear to me watching that video and watching this one, Sonya Massey wasn't going to hurt anyone. And no, now that we see this other bit of footage here, I think this is also important. She was interacting with officers earlier that day and they treated her a lot better than the other officer did. They didn't see her as a threat. And apparently they knew even then, because they had already spoke to the mother, that the mother said that she had a mental health episode. So that tells me that the police department already knew that she had mental health issues. So that is why I do not understand why that evening when she made the call, why wasn't there someone else, a professional, someone who was trained, whether it's a mental health professional that knows how to deal with those types of situations? Why weren't they also sent there? I know she called the police because she said she thought someone was outside her house, but they're also in that type of situation. You already have the information now. So why wasn't there another person that was sent with them that was a mental health professional to help with that situation?
I got home, I ain't got no hot water, I ain't got no lights, I had to throw away all the food.
You calling today to get that fixed, you said?
They got my phone.
At one point, she confirmed she'd been taking her medicine when asked about it by officers.
When's the last time you took your medicine? It's written down last night.
On July 5th, Massey's mother, Donna, called 911 saying Sonya was having a mental health episode. Her mother pleading with the operator not to hurt her daughter.
So you guys hear that, right?
She's been mentally having a mental breakdown. She thinks everybody's after her.
Hours later, at 12:49 a.m. on July 6th, Sonya called 911 herself to report a disturbance.
It sounds like somebody was banging on the side of my house. I don't know. Oh, could y'all come and see?
30-year-old Sean Grayson and his partner responded to the call.
The situation quickly escalating when Sonya asked to take a boiling pot of water off the stove.
Where you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
And it was that set him off when she said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, when she had the pot of water on the stove. Now, again, she's all the way over here in the kitchen with the pot. He is in the living room. You have a gun. She doesn't. What was she going to do to him? And we're not going to show, obviously, the shooting on here, but.
I rebuke you in the name of
Better not. I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face.
So you see what happens there? So that apparently provoked him. You better not. He said that he would shoot her in her face, and he immediately points the gun at her. Again, I can't show more of it than this. But what you see that happens after this is that she puts her hands up in the air like this, and she's about to crouch down, and he shot her in the head. So what was she going to do to you? This officer already had issues. He already had issues prior to that particular incident. Now, why am I bringing this up? There's new information about that officer, but I also want to show you what happened to the Illinois County Sheriff. He ended up leaving. He retired after this case. If this doesn't tell you something, listen to this, and then you're going to wait till you hear what I tell you just happened to the sheriff recently.
Now to the latest on the fatal police shooting of Sonya Massey. The Illinois County Sheriff, who has faced mounting criticism, is retiring. DeMarco Morgan is here with the latest details. Good morning to you, DeMarco.
Good morning to you guys. Well, embattled Sangamon County Sheriff Jack Campbell says he's retiring at the end of the month. The announcement comes after the now former deputy he helped hire, Sean Grayson, shot and killed Massey at her home back on July 6th after she called 911 for help. The sheriff saying, quote, "I will not risk the community that I swore to protect." He went on to say the tragic death of Sonya Massey has been a heartbreaking event for our community. The one person truly responsible for this act is in jail, and I truly believe justice will be served
through the legal process. So this is the Sangamon County Sheriff. His name is Jack Campbell, and he said the one person who is truly responsible for this act is in jail. That was Officer Grayson at that point in time. And then he retired. So even the county sheriff was able to say, okay, no, this was not right. And then he retired. He peaced out. He retired. Oh, I don't want to deal with that. I'm out. Now's a good time for me to retire. I'm out. So I wanted people to see that so that you can see, just a reminder, that the county sheriff said the one person who is truly responsible for this act is in jail. And I truly believe that justice will be served
through the legal process. Campbell also says he has even had threats to his own life related to the case. Sheriff Campbell received mounting pressure to step down after the disturbing body cam video of former Deputy Grayson.
And we're not going to show the video again, obviously, but now there is new information about that particular officer. Hey, you're not going to like this, but you need to hear it.
The former Sangamon County deputy charged with the murder of Sonya Massey is set to be released from jail this Friday.
An appellate court ruling last week that Sean Grayson can await trial outside of custody.
Terrence Lee is here with what this means moving forward.
Let's go back again, just in case you missed it.
The former Sangamon County deputy charged with the murder of Sonya Massey is set to be released from jail this Friday.
An appellate court ruling last week that Sean Grayson can await trial outside of custody.
Terrence Lee is here with what this means moving.
Usually when that's happened, that's because they don't believe that you are going to be a threat or a danger to society. Now, this guy already had multiple issues as an officer before the incident with Sonya Massey. Then he goes on and he kills Sonya Massey, and now they are releasing him. He is released now. They released him. They put this guy back out on the street. Oh, you don't have to stay in jail. You're not a danger. We're going to go ahead and release you, and you can just wait for trial.
forward.
Donna's got this decision is sparking a lot of legal and political scrutiny right now. The Court of Appeals has reversed the decision to keep Grayson locked up before trial, saying there wasn't enough evidence he posed a serious threat to the community. They also said he should be evaluated as a private citizen, not as a former law enforcement officer.
They said it wasn't enough evidence that showed that he was a threat to the community. This man, as a police officer who's supposed to serve and protect, he pulled out his weapon and he shot a woman in the head because of the words that she said. Sonya Massey didn't have a gun. Sonya Massey, even at that point, her hands went up like this. She had a pot on the stove. She said, do you mind if I get the pot of water that's on the stove? Because there was a pot of water that obviously there was boiling on the stove. Do you mind if I go ahead and take this off the stove? So you react by shooting her in the head. And he's not a threat. Not the first incident, by the way. They've had numerous issues with this particular police officer, but he's not a threat.
Grayson is accused of shooting and killing Sonya Massey after she called 911 about a possible prowler in July. In body cam footage, Grayson talked to Massey in her living room. And when she got up to move a pot of hot water, she said,
yeah, and you can see here again. So even again, at this point, as she is crouching down, what is she going to do to you? You know, so it's just, with this particular incident here, there's no way around it. If you're a police officer and you're threatened, you feel your life is threatened because someone said words to you, you need to get another job. I know teachers that can take on more than that, okay? I know teachers that have had desks thrown at them, teachers that get cursed at, teachers that basically have to be more than a teacher and also be a babysitter and a counselor and everything else that goes along with it, and they can handle that. But you can't handle someone saying what she said to you and your response was to shoot her in the head. You're in the wrong profession. But I believe this guy is an asshole. I know. I get it. Sherry says he had no right to be in her home, but she let them come in. And this is another thing I will say to you guys, because we walked through the longer video back when it happened. The police actually don't have the right to come into your home without a warrant. Now, this is what they'll do. They'll show up and knock on the door and they'll say, hey, can we come inside? You can say no. And please share that with as many people as possible. I don't think a lot of people know that. Just because they ask to come in, if they don't have a warrant, you can say no. But regardless of that, I still don't want you to feel like this is her fault, because it's not her fault. Sonya Massey would still be alive today. Remember, there were two police officers. One decided that he was going to shoot her in the head. The other officer didn't see her as a threat. And if it wasn't for the other officer being with him, we wouldn't even have body cam footage. Grayson's body cam wasn't on. When he goes over to her after he shot her in the head, by the way, he turned it off at one point and then turns it back on. So had the other officer not even been there, crazy times, man. Crazy, crazy times. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.